the Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Hello and welcome to the Best in the World with Richard Parr. I am, of course, Richard Parr. Oh, that was difficult. This is where I interview some of the greatest sports athletes on the planet to find out what makes them better than the average Joe. Of course, I am an average Joe, so I want to learn from these talented individuals. This week's talented individual is Lizanne van Vuuren, and she was part of the Coxless Crew. That was a team of women who achieved a world first by rowing 8,446 miles unsupported across the Pacific Ocean in 2015. They went from America to Australia and they were raising money for two charities, Walking with the Wounded and Breast Cancer Care. Lizanne talks about how you can donate to those charities if you would like at the end of the show. All of the details there. I'll also have the details on the main page when you click through to listen to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or on the website richardparr.net, or on the Facebook page, which is imaginatively titled Best in the World with Richard Parr. Now, it's an Olympic year, and one of the things I've been thinking about is Olympic songs, and probably more broadly, songs related to sports. And I was listening to a bit of Whitney Houston. Yes, I know that's a little bit embarrassing for some of you macho men who will never admit that they like a ballad, but they secretly like a ballad. And I've got to say, I think One Moment in Time is one of the, if not the best sports-related song. I'd love to get your views on this. You can do that by contacting me on Twitter. That's at Richard_Parr. Love to hear your views. Also on the Facebook page. Let's get a bit of debate going. Of course, you've got songs from Rocky. You've got songs from Karate Kid. Be the Best. What a classic song that is. There's so many different sports songs which we could discuss. Let's have a discussion about that on Twitter at Richard_Parr. I would love to get your views on that. So, that's something you can listen to on your iPhone or your iPod or your MP3 player. You can stick the earbuds in, or your headphones, or your Beats if you're hip. I'm not hip, so I don't own any Beats. But those are things that you can listen to. But you can also listen to audiobooks. And that is one thing I discussed with Lizanne van Vuuren. She says on the boat, as they went across the Pacific Ocean, they were listening to the book Wild. Remember, that was the movie with Reese Witherspoon quite recently. Perhaps that's something you'd like to listen to. And you know what? Why don't you listen to it for free? Because my sponsor today is Audible. Audible.com has over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, iPad, MP3 player. So you could listen to an audiobook like Wild, or like what I'm listening to, which is Sports Gene by David Epstein. Really good book. I'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. But if you want to get a free book and a 30-day free download, all you've got to do is go to audibletrial.com/best. If you didn't hear me that time and you need to get a pen out, or you need to get that notes app on your phone, get ready now. I'll pause. I'll wait for you to get ready. This isn't dead air. This is me just waiting. Come on, get that pen out. Get that pen out. You don't want to miss this deal. I sound like a butcher. You know, those ones in the farm. Oh, anyone want a steak? Anyone want some chicken? Oh, I've got a lovely rack of ribs that you can get here. Well, I've got a lovely deal on audiobooks for you today. 1 free audiobook and 30-day free download on audible.com. All you have to do, get ready, is go to audibletrial.com/best. That is the best deal you're going to get because it is free on the Best in the World with Richard Parr. And I'm going to throw in something else for free right now, and that is you learning from the best in the world. And today that is Lizanne van Vuuren.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Lizanne van Vuuren, welcome to the Best in the World with Richard Parr. An amazing feat that you've done with the women. So how did the idea of this rotor sail across the Pacific Ocean? Where did it all start? Where did it come from?
Thank you very much, Richard. Well, it basically started with Laura Pennell, who was the drive behind the whole row. And I think it was just something for all of us to challenge ourselves. You know, none of us had ever done anything like this before, and it has never been accomplished. So for all of us, we just basically dived into it and saw it as something that we wanted to achieve. And I guess for everything or anything like this, there's got to be a greater cause behind just you wanting to accomplish something. So we were basically doing it to raise money for two charities, which is breast cancer care and walking with the wounded. And we wanted to use the road to basically create a platform where we could inspire people and just show people that you could really do anything that you set your mind to.
Yeah, amazing. How did the fundraising for the charity go? Are you still collecting for that?
Yeah, we're still collecting. Up until this point, we've raised probably about £50,000, and we're aiming to raise 100,000 and beyond. So for the next 6 months, we'll be driving the fundraising, doing talks and school presentations, and then in June of this year, we'll have a fundraising event in the UK in London to basically end off our fundraising. And hopefully reach our target.
Oh, fantastic. Well, at the end of the show, I'll get you to give all the details on how our listeners can help fund and help the charity out there. So we talked about how it started for the group of you, but how did you get involved in this?
I had just completed my first half Ironman, and I really enjoyed the psychological aspect behind endurance sports. I've always done sports, and I've always been very drawn to endurance events. And then I actually saw an article on Twitter that Laura had put out about what they were doing and what they were aiming to do. And I absolutely love women getting together and just doing extraordinary things. So I messaged her and I said, I think what you're doing is amazing. Well done. And she said, well, why don't you join me?
Oh, wow.
And I said, you must be joking. Like, I've never rode. I live in Cape Town. And she said, well, none of that really matters. You can train for this, and we can get you set up in Cape Town with a support team. And you can basically do the training with us, but obviously in a different location. So I just thought, I've got nothing to lose. So I applied, and I got sent to the UK, or I went to the UK for the physical tests. And that's where I met everyone for the first time. None of us were friends before. We all came together for the row. And at that time, I was actually busy buying a practice in Cape Town. I'm an osteopath, which meant that it was very difficult for me to do the entire row, which was going to last, 6 months plus. So Laura said, that's fine, they'll keep me as a reserve. And a few weeks before they set off from San Francisco, I get a call from Laura and said, any chance that you could do, that you're still interested, and would you be able to do one of the legs? So the journey was from San Francisco to Hawaii to Samoa, and Samoa to Cairns, with a stopover for about a week to resupply and clean the boat at those two destinations, and then obviously have the swap over. So I took over from Isabel Burnham in Hawaii, and then rode with the girls to Samoa, which took 97 days.
Wow, that is a long time on a boat. I think I've lasted 6 hours on a Calais ferry or something ridiculous. not on a small boat where, from what I've been reading, you've been sleeping in small quarters and everything like that. Now, I want to get into that in just a moment, but just tell me about the training, because like you said, you've never rowed before. How did it become like a full-time job of training? Was it like, how many hours were you doing? What time would you have to get up? And what did you mean, like you were training with the team, but in Cape Town? Would you have Skype sessions? How did that all work?
So the preparation was in two parts. First of all, obviously physically. It wasn't, because the boat is an ocean rowing boat, it's very stable. Our rowing technique wasn't important, but what was important was our physical strength to be able to actually pull the boat through the water. So what we needed to do, and the aim for the row or for the preparation, was to really just put on as much weight as we could, or as much weight as I could in that, allocated time, which ended up being about 3 months of muscle and fat. So we needed fat reserves, to obviously have to burn off whilst I was on the boat, and then just muscle strength. So we had the British Olympic team coach. He set up our physical plan, our exercise plan, and so I had Skype sessions with him, and he went through my eating regime and training regime. So I was still working a full-time sort of 12-hour day job, and so I'd get up in the morning, sort of either 5:30, go to the gym, work, or I'd do it after work and sort of go to work at 7 until sort of 9-10 o'clock, and just do muscle training. It was a very new area of training for me, because I'd always either been a runner, swimmer, or cyclist. So to go into the men's section of the gym where all the weights are was a new thing for me, and I really enjoyed it. It's very versatile, and it's amazing to be able to see results so quickly. And then the second part of the training was psychological. I mean, we always said that the row would be pretty much 85% psychological and 15 physical. So we had an incredible sports psychologist, Keith Goddard, who worked with us from the beginning, and even throughout the whole row and afterwards. And then he got us to prepare mentally for the row, which entailed doing a psychometric test. So we got to discover quite in-depth areas of our personalities that would be quite important on the boat. So, for example, how you deal with stress, and how reactive you are, and that was very interesting. So we actually got to know each other very well, even before getting on the boat with each other. And then we would do things like write down our 3 hot buttons. What are the 3 things that brings out the best in you, and what are the 3 things that brings out the worst in you. And for example, something that brings out the worst in you could be if you're cold, wet, and hungry. You might get a little bit moody, or being patronized, or
People being late for me, Lizanne.
Oh, that is a good one.
Yeah.
Lucky for you, I've improved my skills on that a lot on the row, because I'm generally not the most punctual person, but having a routine of 2 hours on, 2 hours off definitely drills that into you.
What did you learn the most about yourself that you're willing to tell people around the world? What did you learn the most about yourself from this process, do you think?
I learned that mentally I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was. I mean, dealing with frustration of rowing so hard that your hands hurt, and then looking at your screen repeater, which showed us how fast we were traveling and in what direction, and looking at that and seeing that we were actually going pretty much at zero point 0.2 knots, which meant we were pretty much standing still but rowing our hearts out. I think you really need to have that mental strength to just know that you just have to carry on pushing, because if you stop, you'll go backwards. And I learned that I learned that I deal with stress very well, which I wasn't really aware of before. But there was never a time on the boat where I got particularly stressed or scared, or I really thought going into the road, not having done this ever before, I thought that there'd be moments where I really, really had to, push myself and get very stressed, and that never really happened. And I mean, one of the biggest lessons I learned on the boat was about teamwork. I've never been part of a team that works so intricately and like clockwork, 2 hours on, 2 hours off. No one ever missed a shift at all, which was incredible, through seasickness, through being tired and sleep deprived. It was such a magical experience working with 3 other women towards one goal.
Yeah, amazing. And you said a few moments ago that you needed to put on weight for the row. Did that mean you could just eat whatever you liked, like pizzas and Burger King and things like that, or were you on a strict diet plan?
Basically lots of protein. So I got the protein shakes out and loads of eggs. And I tried to do it as healthy as possible. So lots of macadamia nuts, avocados, the sort of healthy fats. But don't get me wrong, I definitely didn't really put restrictions on what I ate. So it was basically a time where you could, as a girl, it was incredible. You could really just have whatever you wanted and not feel guilty about it.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Really great chat with Lizanne van Vuuren so far. Amazing story. Osteopath by day, world record rower by 97 days on a break. It's not really by night, but she was doing the training by night. You know what I'm trying to get to. And what I'm going to get to now is to talk about today's sponsor, which is audible.com. 180,000 titles to choose from of amazing audiobooks. What I've been listening to recently is Sports Gene by David Epstein. It's all about nature versus nurture in sport. Is it what is passed down from your parents, your grandparents, in your genes, in your genetic makeup that can make you the athlete that you are today? Is it the parents of Usain Bolt? Is it the parents of Cristiano Ronaldo, which makes them great and the genetic makeup they have? Or is it the hard graft? Is it the 1,000 hours a year, the 10,000 hours over 10 years, the improvement in learning? Is it the environment? Is that what makes people such as Lionel Messi and, let's say, Michael Johnson? Is that what made them the best people in the world at their sport? It's all this big debate. Very good book I've read before by Matthew Syed called Bounce. I'm going to listen to his new book soon. That's Black Box Thinking. That's on my list. But Sports Gene, where Matthew Syed argued that it's more of environment and training, David Epstein seems to be balancing both. I'm only about a third of the way through this audiobook, but I'm loving it already. I really recommend that you should listen to it too, and you can do that for free with today's sponsors, Audible. All you've got to do is go to audibletrial.com/best for your free audiobook and free 30-day trial. Audible.com. That's audibletrial.com/best for best in the world. Let's get back to Lizanne. She is the best in the world.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
just before we effectively get onto the boat in this conversation, what lifestyle habits and changes did you have to make? What sacrifices did you have to make in those weeks and months leading up to the race? Well, to the voyage even.
I guess basically just working in. I just had to be very disciplined, and it had to get done. It's not. It wasn't a choice. You just something had to get done, and you just had to do it. So I definitely did a lot more physical training, obviously, and then the mental training. I'm a very happy-go-lucky person usually, but Keith really got us to analyze ourselves and think very much, visualize what it was going to be like on the road. What was it going to be like getting on the boat in Hawaii, and what it was going to be like getting into Samoa. So there was definitely a lot of mental training that went into the weeks or the months leading up to the row. But apart from that, it was really just train, work, eat, sleep.
Repeat.
So
on the boat, what wildlife did you see, and how close would you get to some of them?
Wow, we saw the most incredible wildlife. We had a shark follow us for about a month. So every day would come and just, pop its head out and come and say hello.
That's not a fun type of pet to have, really, is it?
No. I mean, we did get very attached to it, actually. We called him Fernando. But it obviously meant that we couldn't swim during those times, which for me was a little bit frustrating as it was so ridiculously hot. And then we saw so many fish, mahi-mahi in particular, and they'd escort us at night. So at night time, we'd have this school of fish either side of us, which was, it was amazing. Lots of jellyfish, loads of birds, and then, of course, amazing visits from dolphins. And we had one whale in particular circle us for about an hour and a half, and it got so close to us that it wet us with its blowhole.
Oh, wow. That must be memories which you'll never forget.
Absolutely.
And what were you eating on the boat? We spoke about what you had to eat before, but what could you eat when you're on the boat?
We had to basically try and maintain a calorie intake of about 4,000 calories a day. So we had expedition food, which was dehydrated food packs, which is designed for this sort of thing. It's really packed with calories and I guess nutrients to keep us going. But essentially it was dried food that we just add hot water to, and it becomes a delicious meal. And then on top of that, we had snack packs, which we prepared before the row and put in Ziploc bags. And that had our treats like nuts and dried fruit and little sweets. And that was a great tool to stay awake at night, just to have something to chew on. But yeah, and then obviously our water, we had a water maker, which was incredible. The water tasted amazing.
Oh, wow. And I hear you had solar power on the boat to be able to charge things like iPhones and cameras and stuff, and be able to listen to music. I also heard that you listened to audiobooks. Are there any particular audiobooks you listened to on the journey?
Though we all basically in the end sort of shared what we had amongst ourselves. But one in particular was Wild, that Reese Witherspoon stars in.
Okay.
It was amazing because she also goes on this, a journey of her own, and there was so many parallels that we could relate to. So that was a really nice one. And then we visited old classics like Pride and Prejudice, which was also really nice.
Oh, no, nice way to just keep your brain thinking and moving while you're doing all that work. And I hear that you also wrote a diary, and there was a story that it got stolen, but you managed to get it back. Tell us about that.
Yes, so I kept a journal throughout the row, which was just my own personal, records of what happened and how I was feeling. Um, and when I got back to Cape Town, probably about 2 months ago, it got stolen, and I was obviously devastated. But along with the bag that had my diary in, was my phone. And we tracked my phone to an area in Cape Town called Manenberg, which is pretty much gangster territory in Cape Town. So we went to the police there and said, here's my phone through the Find My iPhone app. I tracked it to that area. So the police escorted us, and they were amazing. And they basically tried to find it all night. We had to go home after about an hour and a half because they got called onto another job. But they didn't stop until they found it. They called us in the next morning, and when I got there, the guy took my phone out of his pocket and was like, "Is this your phone?" And I was like, "Amazing, that's so great." But they hadn't found the bag. The bag was nowhere to be found. So we basically started a new mission trying to find the bag, because from the police we learned that that the car that they used that was used just after they stole my bag had been abandoned. It broke down and they abandoned it, and we thought, well, they probably took my phone out as the only valuable thing in the bag and just left the bag in the car. So we thought we'd sort of try and track down the car and see if it was sent to an impound. Lo and behold, it was. So Dan Mayer basically went and did all the research and went and found this one particular impound place that the car was sent to, and my bag was there with my diary and all.
Wow.
So I went one morning before work and got it back, and it's been so amazing reading back, a few months later, going back through the diary and just experiencing it all over again.
Had you ever written a diary before, or is it something you've decided to continue to do? Did it help you mentally with each day or anything, or was it purely just for that record for you to have?
No, I keep a diary, generally, and not every day at all, but I like to have a record of, things that happen in my life. And I basically wanted the diary to be able to reflect upon the road, to be able to go back and remember things that I'd forgotten and things that I felt and lessons that I learned. It was all obviously very personal, so it was it's just a tool for me to be able to to reflect, really.
And how hard was it, or how easy was it for you to leave the boat when your leg finished?
Oh wow, that was such a bittersweet moment for me. About a week before we were due to arrive in Samoa, that's when it already started. We were all in so much pain because the second leg of the row was supposed to take 60 days and it ended up taking 97. So we'd been on the boat more than a month longer than we were expected to. So our skin was just rashed. Obviously, our bums were sore. We were really tired, sleep deprived. We were hungry because we started to run out of food and really only had sort of beef curry left. And so I was really ready to get off that boat because we were all so uncomfortable. But obviously it meant that I was getting off, and the journey was continuing from Samoa to Samoa to Cairns. and I wouldn't be there, at the end. So it was definitely a bittersweet moment.
And how easy or difficult was it for you to then go back to being an osteopath? And were there any things from that journey and what you guys achieved that you now use in your everyday life?
Wow, coming back to work and back into my normal life was a bit of a reality smack in the face, to be honest. Not in a bad way. It was just like, whoa. I mean, we'd been in a pink bubble for like 3 months, where the biggest decision you had to make was what you're going to eat that day, or what you're going to blog about. So it really was, in a way, such a serene place to be for 3 months. And then you come back and you just read the newspapers again, and so much had happened, and it was crazy. And then going back to work and having people depend on you, and questions about work stuff, and obviously with patients having to help people who are in pain, which I love. I really love my job, but it was just it's like throwing yourself in the deep end again. And things that I've used from the row, beyond the row, was definitely routine. I realized how our bodies respond so well to having a routine. The 2 hours on, 2 hours off, your body worked like clockwork. So I've definitely tried to incorporate that. And then I became very aware of how if you don't use it, you lose it. Talking about muscles, we lost our calf muscles, our glutes, because we weren't walking or climbing stairs or doing any of that. We were really sitting down for 3 months. So we lost a lot of muscle mass. So I've become very aware of that, and I've slowly started to rebuild that. And then the last thing is teamwork. I've really tried to incorporate all of the relationships that I have in my life, try to work it as a team, whether it's friendships or a relationship or work colleagues. We all work as a team, and if you sort of look at each other's roles and just get to take the time to understand each other, I think you can be a lot more successful.
It really sounds like a life-changing experience for you. So do you have another challenge lined up?
For the moment, no. I think the rose still's going to take a lot of time with the fundraising, just basically rounding it off nicely and making sure that we get as much money for our charities as possible. So I haven't lined anything up yet, but there will definitely be something else that I'd like to work towards.
Yeah, I'm sure that itch will come back soon, and you'll probably want to go for another challenge. Before we go, why don't you tell everyone how they can follow you and how they can donate to the charity, please, Lizanne?
We've got a website, which is www.coxlesscrew.com, and the donate details are all on there for our Virgin Money Giving page. And then we still write daily blogs about what we're doing after the row and what events we're doing, where we're talking, and how people can get involved. So go on there to follow our blog. And then the event in London in June, stay tuned for that. We'd love as many people to join as possible. Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, I'll try. Hopefully everyone can get involved and donate, and good luck for everything coming up in London in June and everything in the future and whatever that new challenge will be. Wish you all the best. Lizanne van Vuuren, thank you for being the best in the world.
Thank you so much, Richard.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.
Many thanks to Lizanne van Vuuren. Really great chat with her. Amazing story. It really shows that you might have a day job working in a clinic, working in a bank, working in a supermarket, But if you put your mind to it, you can achieve something outstanding. And that is what Lizanne van Vuuren has done. She was someone who hadn't even picked up a row before and has now been part of the team which has sailed across the Pacific Ocean. That is something she can be really proud of, an incredible achievement. It shows that we all can do amazing things if we put our minds to it, if we put our bodies to it, and we make the sacrifices to be the best in the world. I really enjoyed that chat with Lizanne. We've been on the water a few times on the Best in the World with Richard Parr. We've had Etienne Stott on the show. We've had Damien Ryder on the show. We've even been swimming in the water with Nick Gillingham. Really good chats with all. Go back on iTunes, on Stitcher, on the website richardparr.net/podcast to listen back to those if you've enjoyed this one. I hope you have. If you've got any feedback for the show, you can always contact me on Twitter at Richard_Parr, on the Facebook Best in the World with Richard Parr, and on the website richardparr.net. So that's a lot of Richard Parrs. It's not about Richard Parr, it's about learning from the best in the world. We've done that with Lizanne van Vuuren, and we will do that again soon. So I will see you next time. Have a great week, guys.
The Best in the World podcast with Richard Parr.